Hi there, my name is Lisa Jahn-Clough. I am an author and an illustrator of books for children or any age. I don't care how old you are. You could be whatever age you want. If you like the book, great. If you don't, that's okay too. But most of what I've published so far has been picture books that I've written and illustrated and a couple of young adult novels. But I have a new book coming called The Kids of Cattywumpus Street, and it's a collection of stories that are kind of connected. It's about 11 kids, and they all live on Cattywumpus Street. Cattywumpus Street is a very long and twisty road, and if you didn't know this, Cattywumpus is a word that means long and twisty. And the 11 kids that live on Cattywumpus Street are named Jamal, Linda Lee, Hans, Evelyn, Charlotta, Rodney, Mateo, Amira, Emmett, Bob, and Ursula. And each one of those kids has a story about them. Some of the kids may seem just like you, and others may seem nothing at all like you. It really depends on what you are like. And you might wish that some of the things that happen to the kids in these stories might happen to you, but on the other hand, you might wish nothing of the sort whatsoever. You're just going to have to read the stories or listen to them as I read them to you. So a little more about Cattywumpus Street. It's way out in the middle of Nowheresville. And it's long and twisty, as I said, and there's a park and a zoo and a bunch of houses and some apartment buildings and a school and a pond and train tracks. And at the very end of Cattywumpus Street is the Waddleby Toy Store, where some strange things have been known to happen. So I'm going to read to you right now the very first story. Oh, and I wanted to say that this collection of stories, The Kids of Cattywumpus Street, is dedicated to my friends Ellery and Acadia, who are sisters who have listened to a lot of these stories and have read a lot of these stories as I was working on them. So hi Ellery, hi Acadia, if you're there, and thank you for letting me, share my stories with you. And thank you to everyone else for listening. So with no further ado, story number 1, The Magic Ball, the story of Jamal. This is the first story, and it is about Jamal. Jamal lived in the first house on Cattywumpus Street. He was a nice boy, a quiet boy, a boy who was easy to get along with. Everybody liked Jamal. One day, Jamal went to buy a magic ball. Now, you might think it's silly to try to buy a magic ball. Maybe you don't believe in magic, but Jamal believed in magic, and he had been saving up for a long, long time to buy a magic ball. Finally, he had enough money. Jamal walked all the way to the Waddleby Toy Store at the end of Cattywumpus Street, where the pavement ends. The toy store was on the first floor of a 2-story building. It had a tiny sign above the door that said Waddleby in faded red letters. It didn't even say it was a toy store, but you could tell it was because of the display in the front window. There were stuffed animals, lions and tigers and bears, a big dollhouse, puppets, squeaky toys, wind-up toys, toy cars, toy trucks, toy trains, all kinds of puzzles and games, and yes, some balls. Jamal opened the door and a tiny little bell went jing-a-ling-ling. The shopkeeper looked up and frowned. She looked like she was in a bad mood, but Jamal walked over to her anyway. "Do you have any magic balls?" he asked. The shopkeeper grumbled something Jamal couldn't quite understand and pointed to the back of the store. Jamal walked along the dusty, dark aisles. He passed by a stuffed monkey, a plastic squeaky frog, some rubber spiders, and a lot of balls, all different colors and sizes, but none seemed magic, so he kept going. Finally, in the way, way back corner on the tippy-top shelf behind a bunch of blocks was one ball with a bright red star. The star twinkled in the dim light, casting a reddish glow on Jamal's face. Jamal smiled. This was the magic ball he was looking for. But the ball was way too high for him to reach. How would he get the magic ball down? He could ask the shopkeeper, but she was busy yelling at another customer, and he didn't want to interrupt. So Jamal started wishing. This is what he wished. "I wish that magic ball would roll off the tippy-top shelf and right into my arms." And lo and behold, it did. The magic ball with a bright red star rolled right into Jamal's arms. The red star twinkled. Jamal brought it to the register. The other customer had moved on, and now the shopkeeper glared at Jamal over the top of her eyeglasses. "Are you sure you want that silly old ball?" she asked. "Yes," said Jamal. He paid for it and went on his way. Outside, he ran into his friends, Linda Lee and Hans. At least, he thought they were his friends, but being around magic can change people, and not always for the best. And in this story, Linda Lee and Hans are not so nice, as you will soon see. "What's that?" asked Linda Lee, pointing at the magic ball. "Yeah, what's that?" asked Hans, pointing too. He always followed Linda Lee. "It is my new ball," answered Jamal. "Why does it have a star?" asked Linda Lee. She squinted at the star. "Yeah, why?" echoed Hans. He squinted too. "It has a star because it is magic," Jamal told them. Linda Lee reached up and tightened the pink bow in her hair. "What can it do that is magic?" she asked with a gleam in her eye. "Yeah, what can it do?" Hans asked. He had a gleam in his eye too, but he didn't have a pink bow to tighten, although he wished that he did. He tugged at his shirt collar instead. Jamal looked at the magic ball. Once again, the red star twinkled. "I'm not sure yet," he said. Linda Lee and Hans nodded at each other. Did they believe Jamal? I don't know, but Linda Lee definitely looked like she was up to no good. I think she may have even winked at Hans behind Jamal's back. But Jamal paid them no mind. He said goodbye and continued on his way. Jamal didn't know it, but Linda Lee and Hans were following him. When Jamal got home, he put the magic ball on the top shelf of his closet, then went to his swim lesson. He couldn't very well have taken the magic ball to the pool. I mean, what if he dropped it in the water and it lost all its magic? So after Jamal was gone, Linda Lee walked up to his front door and rang the doorbell. Hans was right next to her. Jamal's mother answered. "Jamal said we could play with his ball," Linda Lee said. She smiled very sweetly. "Yeah, he said we could play with it," said Hans. He smiled too. Jamal's mother believed them. Why wouldn't she? So she went to Jamal's room and picked up the first ball she saw, which was a yellow one with stripes. She brought it out. "Here you go," Jamal's mother said. "No, no, no," said Linda Lee, stomping. "That is the wrong ball. Jamal said the ball with the red star." "Yeah, a bright red star," said Hans. And yes, he stomped too. So Jamal's mother found the ball with the red star in Jamal's closet and gave it to Linda Lee and Hans. Hans was about to say thank you because Hans was a little more polite and a little nicer than Linda Lee. But Linda Lee grabbed the ball and ran off. How rude! Hans ran after her. Linda Lee and Hans were laughing so hard and running so fast that they forgot to look where they were going. Suddenly, Linda Lee bumped smack into a telephone pole, and whoops, she dropped the magic ball. It rolled into the street. Uh-oh. "Stupid pole!" yelled Linda Lee. "Stupid pole," repeated Hans, even though he hadn't bumped into it. "Stupid ball," yelled Linda Lee when she noticed the ball rolling away. "Stupid ball," repeated Hans. Then he added, "I'll go get it." Hans was about to chase after the ball when a policeman came out of nowhere and stopped him. "You can't run into the street like that, little boy. You might get hurt," said the policeman. The policeman may have stopped Linda Lee and Hans, but he did not stop the magic ball. The ball rolled and rolled and rolled and rolled. It rolled across Cattywampus Street, up onto the sidewalk on the other side, and it kept rolling. All the time the red star twinkled, though it could have just been the sunlight. Now, it so happened that Jamal's swim lesson had been canceled because his instructor had a bad case of swimmer's ear. And at that very moment, Jamal was heading home down that very sidewalk. And guess what he found? Yep. You're so smart. It was his very own magic ball rolling right toward him. The ball stopped at Jamal's feet and bobbled back and forth as if it were excited. If a ball could be excited, but this is a magic ball, so this ball was excited. And the red star twinkled extra bright. Jamal picked it up. "Wow, my magic ball knew just where I was," he said. Then He noticed Linda Lee and Hans on the other side of the street. They did not look happy. The policeman was still there, giving them a lecture or something like that. Jamal waved to his friends, but they did not wave back, which he thought was a little odd, but he didn't mind because, after all, Jamal had a magic ball. And that's the end. Tune in next time when I'll read you one of the other stories about one of the other kids. Okay, this is Lisa Jahn-Clough signing off. Bye.